Hello everyone and welcome to the special edition of ETC3 TV. I'm Christy Lindstrom. Today's program is entitled Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. This program is an initiative of Fannin County Family Connection and other supporting organizations, and those include the Blue Ridge Community Theater, the Fannin County Division of Family and Children's Services, Fannin County Public Library, Highland Rivers Health, the North Georgia Autism Foundation, the North Georgia Mountain Crisis Network, and the Craddock Center. And you can find more information about this mental health awareness initiative on the Fannin County Family Connection webpage at fcfc1.org. Just click on the mental health tab. Now typically we do one show per month, the third Thursday of the month, but this month we've joined you twice. We joined you Monday and again today because we've had a special series of programs that we wanted to make sure that we brought to you about mental health. And Monday's program, we introduced you to Suzanne Stepp Davenport. She is the owner and the pharmacist at Southern Drug Company in Blue Ridge, and she talked to us all about opioids. And also you met Carrie Thomas. Carrie has been a nurse for 21 years, and Carrie battled an opioid addiction, but she's now recovered. And she credits her boss for opening up the lines of communication with her so that she could self-report. And also she credits a 3-year program in Tennessee that allowed her some training and education so that she did not lose her nursing license. And it helped her to get her life back on track. But what happens if drug use or mental health illness or something else causes you to find yourself in the judicial system? Is jail the only answer? Today we're going to learn more about accountability courts, because according to the Center for Prisoner Health and Human Rights, approximately half of all individuals in prisons or jails are suffering from some form of mental illness or substance abuse problem. Many of these individuals will relapse and find themselves back into trouble when they get back into the community. But accountability courts, they aim to remedy this. And I'm so excited to tell you that in 2020, the Appalachian Judicial Circuit's Mental Health Court, which serves Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens counties, it was named a model court by the Georgia Council of Accountability Court Judges. As a model court, it serves as a resource to all of Georgia's mental health courts that are in need of technical assistance. Currently, there are 38 mental health courts that are operating throughout the state of Georgia. And I'm proud to say that the mental health court was launched in 2009 by our own Chief Judge, Brenda Weaver. And the Honorable Judge John Worcester here with us today, he presides over that mental health court. Judges, we are so honored to have you here today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having us. We want to talk today about accountability courts because I know that it's important to both of you that jail or prison is not always the answer. And Judge Weaver, I'd like to start with you having a kind of a broad conversation about accountability courts first. In general, what is an accountability court?
An accountability court is an alternative to jail, as you just mentioned. It gives the individual the opportunity to get treatment. The accountability courts in our circuit are a minimum of 24 months. In order to graduate, you must have 365 days of negative drug screens. During the 24 months, you receive treatment. We have compliance officers that go out to your home on the night and weekends to check on you. They receive no less than 2 drug screens a week, but actually in phases 1 and 2, probably anywhere from 3 to 5 drug screens a week. They come into court twice a month to be reviewed by the judges to make sure they're doing okay. We praise them when they're doing well, and we sanction them when they're not doing as well. We are very lucky in this circuit. We have the support of basically all law enforcement. Many of our referrals come from law enforcement. Our district attorney's office, our public defender's office work with us to refer individuals and participants to our courts. We believe in this circuit that it's best for the individuals to be outside of jail. That way they can pay taxes, they can raise their own children, and they can do the things that individuals need to do just to be happy. And we believe that sending these individuals to prison or leaving them in our local jails is not the answer. Sadly, once they're released from jail or once they're released from the state prison, they go back to their old habits. And if we can assist them in ridding themselves of the drug addiction or assist them in getting the mental health treatment they need, we believe their chances of being successful are much higher than going the regular routes of jail or prison.
And Judge Worcester, when did accountability courts, when did they start to become part of our court system, and how did they develop, at least for us here in our circuit?
I think we can probably take this back to maybe 2002, I think, when Judge Weaver started our felony drug court. After that, to 2005, I believe, is when our family treatment court started. We started our mental health court or help court in 2012, I believe.
2009.
2009, you're right. And then the Veterans Court started
2013.
And why did they develop? What were you seeing? And we were talking before we began our program today that it was your history in the legal profession that allowed you to see a lot of things happening. Judge Weaver, can you take us back to how this all happened?
But as I indicated, I was a chief juvenile judge for years, and Judge Worcester, after I was appointed Superior Court judge, he was appointed our chief juvenile judge. And I think basically our experiences with dealing with children in the school system, dealing with individual families who were having addiction issues, made us maybe more aware of the problems of seeing, we would see the same students over and over in juvenile court. We would see these students were not in school as a result of parents being addicted to drugs. They were not able to get up in the morning and get their child to school on time. And by being in the court system, in the juvenile system, and in the courtroom, we would see the same individuals, Christy, over and over. We could send them to jail. They would stay in jail. They would get out, and then we'd see them again. We would send them to the state prison system. They would get out, and then we'd see them again. And that was not the answer. And doing the same thing over and over, and we know it's not working, we knew we had to try something different. And I think the background that we both had in juvenile court allowed us to see things maybe closer than maybe other people in the community, because we realized I saw them in juvenile court, and then I was seeing them in Superior Court. And the underlying issue for either themselves or their parents was some type of drug addiction or some type of mental health issue, or sadly, both. And we knew we had to find a way to help these individuals to help themselves. That's the goal. They need to be able to help themselves. And by putting them in treatment, many times that they could not afford without being in a program, helping them to get therapy for mental health issues, again, things that maybe they could not afford unless they were in one of our courts. We felt like we would have a greater chance of success with them, which means the public would benefit. It is certainly more beneficial to the public that these individuals are out doing things to support themselves, not committing crimes, not being in homes, not taking things in order to sell, to buy drugs. So it was a win-win, not only for the individuals in the court system, but for the public safety of the citizens that we serve. And frankly, it was the right thing to do.
And you realized that we needed accountability courts here locally, but there was also support statewide for accountability courts.
Yes.
And tell us about that.
Well, in 2012, some of our courts, we started with no money, but when Governor Deal was elected, a huge priority for him was the accountability courts. Getting those courts not only set up to receive state funding, but assisting with his Criminal Reform Commission to pass state laws. He was certainly joined in that effort with Speaker Ralston, who frankly had always been a big supporter of the accountability courts locally. For example, in 2002, when I started the felony drug court, we didn't have any money to hire public defenders or anything of that nature, so Judge Messier, who's now on the Court of Appeals, worked for Speaker Ralston at that point in time, and he let her assist our courts by representing individuals in our courts. And of course, we had no money to pay his office, so I kid him a lot of times. He started the first pro bono public defender's office in this circuit by letting Judge Maseer, who was a firm supporter as an attorney, and then certainly when she became a Superior Court judge, very instrumental in helping with the mental health court, and to this day is a firm supporter of all the accountability courts in our circuit. So with that type of state leadership, with the governor and the speaker and our Chief Justice at the time, Carol Honstein, it all came together that at the one point in time in history that all three branches of government agreed on the same thing. Accountability courts was the answer to resolving so many of our criminal justice issues.
And let's talk about the accountability courts that we have, because there are a lot that a community can have.
Right.
And so when you decide, so that decision is yours, right, as our chief judge, but you want buy-in from all of the parties involved, correct?
Exactly. You must have that.
You must have that. So how do you decide, or how did you decide which ones were the priorities, which ones we needed in our community versus ones that were options, but we may not need them at this time?
Well, in 2002, I knew that the issue of methamphetamines had hit this circuit in North Georgia very heavily. And we decided to start the felony drug court first because of the number of individuals that we were seeing in and out of court all the time that were having substance abuse issues. So that court was started first. Frankly, in 2005, I was still holding or presiding over a truancy court in Pickens County, and on a particular Friday, we had 13 families coming in due to their children not being in school as required by law. Of the 13 families, 9 of those families tested positive for methamphetamines. Finally, and I was taking children, removing children to put them in foster homes because of we can't leave children in homes in which both parents are under the influence of methamphetamines, and they were testing positive while being in court. So at that point in time, I was approached by a defects worker, and she said, Judge Weaver, I don't know if you know, but you have removed these children from 9 homes, and we are running out of foster homes. And I said, I understand that, but what do you suggest I do with them? So after that, we met and talked and realized that the families in truancy court using drugs have the same problems as families in the felony drug court. So we started the family treatment court, which was presided over initially by Judge Worcester, and now it's presided over by Judge Wheeler. And that goal is to assist those families to get off drugs so they can raise their own children, because there's simply not enough foster homes in this circuit or in this state if all children are removed from families who have some type of drug issue. So they are also under a 24-month program. They go to treatment classes, they have compliance officers, they are drug screened, they come into court to be reviewed. So that court came directly out of seeing poor attendance of children in school and realizing parents were not able to get up in the morning to get their children to school because of drug abuse issues.
And that is just, it's frightening to know that you're looking at hard numbers and statistics and your experience in our system that has led to all of these other programs. And I think about all the people, and I think about the money that it would take to do that, because you know in your heart that this is what our community needs. And I just want to touch back just a moment with in September, Speaker Ralston published an article, and you also contributed to that article. It was a reporter's article, and you all contributed about the mental health crisis in our community, that it takes money. And if we could put a dollar figure, not just on mental health, but in general, what does it take for us to operate our judicial system when we need to add these extra courts to deal with these issues that you're seeing daily?
Well, I can't give you an exact figure, but I know I believe that we decrease the amount of money that's spent on the local jails. You know, it is not cheap to house 100 people in any of our jails in our 3 counties.
Yeah.
We have currently in our programs over 200 people that are participating in one of our courts. Now, keep in mind, if they were not in these courts, we would be paying foster families to raise their children. We would be housing them in the Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens County jails, feeding them every day. We would be sending them onto the state prison system, which is very expensive. So when you look at all the statistics, and we keep up with this, and we had some independent studies done by the University of Georgia, we are saving the state of Georgia millions of dollars by operating the accountability courts. Even though the state of Georgia is putting money into the courts, all of the statistics show that both locally and state, that by having these individuals out in the communities and working, that we are saving money for the state taxpayers, and that's something that we can all appreciate.
Absolutely. And Judge Worcester, I'll ask you, how do you decide who is eligible for one of these programs? I know we kind of talked a little bit offline that the law of Georgia states some individuals are eligible versus some who are not, but then it also comes down to your discretion as a judge. So talk us through that piece of that, of determining who can be part of an accountability court program.
All right, well, it'll be several ways. There'll be referrals made, either self-referrals, somebody who's in jail, or perhaps somebody from a DA's office, or somebody's private attorney or family members, as somebody who might want to be or might need to be in this program. One of our case managers will go to a jail and sit down with them and talk about it and do an assessment. And if they qualify, and if they qualify and they have someplace to live and they're in the circuit, then it's somebody that we may be able to take a look at. And as a team of all the courts, we get together usually about every other Monday, and we talk about those people and decide, well, okay, this one would be a good one. The DA's office says, yeah, this one would be acceptable to us. Is this a drug court person? Is this a mental health person? Where is this a family treatment court person? Where should we put this person? And then we come up with that and go to them and go to their attorney. And if this is what they want to do, then we can get them out on a accountability court bond and start them in the program.
And before your discretion comes into play, Judge Weaver, speak to what the law says about who is eligible.
There's some exclusions in the law. For example, individuals charged with any type of sexual crime, whether that be aggravated child molestation, rape, some crime of that nature, certainly murder, certain violent crimes, those types of people trafficking in methamphetamines or any type of drugs. Usually those individuals are not allowed to be in the programs based upon the law itself, the statute as it was written. The state legislature wanted to make sure that we were not putting individuals in the programs who would be a safety risk for the community. So those individuals by law are automatically eliminated. Now, sometimes those individuals that may have been initially charged with trafficking methamphetamines comes into the program because once the crime lab comes back, or once the district attorney's office has certain information, or the sheriff's office has certain information, some of those may come into the program, but otherwise they would be excluded by law from being in our programs. Some individuals that people would consider to be violent crimes come in, and a lot of times that comes in as a result of mental health issues. They were off their medication, or they were not in therapy, or they had never received treatment. And so once they are interviewed at the jail, or we get a referral, and Judge Worcester has staff who's trained to know how to interview and to identify those individuals, that even though initially they would be charged with what we would consider a violent crime, it was a direct result of a mental health issue. And if we can keep them on their medication and make sure they have a proper home, and we have compliance officers, then those individuals can come into the program because of the close supervision that his court would be providing to them.
And did you have something that you wanted to say about the medication piece of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's as basic as keeping somebody on their medication, or maybe more specifically, the right medications, and making sure that they're taking them, as prescribed. And so often, people say, well, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I don't believe I need that. And then slowly, and then surely, they start to decompensate. And then we're back to the same kind of situation. So it's medication management as much as anything for a lot of these people.
And how do you work with, you talked about the different players that are involved in this consensus that you need a type of court in our community. How does everyone stay on the same page? How do you communicate? Because you also have tremendous schedules as judges. How do all of these pieces work together, and how does one keep it all straight?
Well, as Judge Worcester mentioned, we have what we call a staffing, and that includes a group of individuals that we meet every other week. The district attorney's office has a representative. Ms. Susan Bockham comes to the meetings representing the district attorney's office. Mr. Clint Hooker represents the public defender. If the defendant has a private attorney, they are invited to come in. We have case managers, we have treatment providers, we have therapists, we have representatives from the E.G. House, the Depot, and Highland Rivers. All of these individuals, we talk about each person that's been referred to the program. And we say programs because we get a name and we may decide, though initially the attorney believes they should be in the felony drug court, but once we learn about the person, he or she needs to be in Judge Worcester's mental health court because of more underlying mental health issues. Now, keep in mind that most of our individuals, when we first get them, have both mental health issues and substance abuse issues. Sadly, a lot of our individuals turn to illegal drugs because they initially had underlying mental health issues that were never treated, and so they got involved in substance abuse issues. Sadly, a lot of them will continue to have both problems, so we try to decide which court is best suited to deal with all of the issues they have, particularly dealing with our veterans, because they have additional issues that maybe they need more assistance, and that's why we created the Veterans Court. We totally believe that if we can't help the veterans in our community who may be having issues, who in the world can we help? So the Veterans Court is very important to both of us.
And educate the community on the Veterans Court. Like what are the tenets or the pieces of that court? How does one become eligible for that particular court? And what is your end goal with those who come through that program?
Of course, the veterans, in order to initially be eligible, is a veteran, and it can be a veteran who is involved in the criminal justice program, in the criminal justice system, either due to mental health issues solely, or to substance abuse issues solely, or both at the same time. Many are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome that they received as a result of the military service.
Sure.
We have some older ones, even from the Vietnam War. We have newer ones from the younger ones from the wars the conflicts they've just been involved with. But they came home with unresolved issues. These unresolved issues led them to abusing drugs and alcohol. These unresolved issues led to deep-seated mental health issues. Because of their special type of service, it was believed that they needed more than the normal the felony drug courts or the mental health courts. So the first Veterans Court actually came out of a court in New York, where the judge realized that for whatever reason, the veterans were just not doing well in the felony drug court. So what he decided was to bring in other veterans as mentors to the veterans in his court. And he said, I could not believe the difference
Because they understood each
made.
other.
They could talk to them
Yes.
in ways that I could never talk to them. I've never been in the military. I didn't understand everything they were going through. And so we have volunteer veterans that we call mentors who come into the Veterans Court. They come into court with them. They have coffee with them. They may go to lunch with them. They have a rapport with them that I could never have. And they don't tell me about what they discuss during their McDonald's visits or their lunch. It's just two veterans talking to each other.
Yeah.
And the difference in success that comes from them being in the Veterans Court as opposed to just being in a mental health court or felony drug court nationwide is tremendous. So that concept of putting a veteran with a veteran has really worked, and they feel more comfortable talking about their issues with other veterans than they do talking with us. And I understand that. I've never been shot at. I've never had all the issues that they have. And what is important to us and everyone involved in the Veterans Court is that we're able to provide the services they need to keep them out of the criminal justice system, because they deserve that. Their efforts is why we get to do the things that we do in our courts.
Right.
And I get sort of emotional about Veterans Court. They deserve our help. Now, are they treated any differently? No, they've got to do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to come to classes. They've got to come to court.
Right.
And sadly, at times we have to do things we don't like to. At times I have to give up and say, okay, I've done all I can do, and the only thing I can do now is jail or prison. But most of the time, we don't have to do that. We're able to give them back to their families. Today I've got a graduation, and I'll have 4 graduating, and listening to their families on the difference that this court's made in their lives. And it's not me, it's the staff. Chris Holt is the program coordinator. We have great program coordinators for all of our programs. It is wonderful to hear from the families about getting their son back or their daughter back, and it's the right thing to do.
And let's talk about the graduation, because we are live today, and I don't know when you'll be watching this program, but this is the 3rd Thursday of the month of November, so they may be watching it in the future. But you do have some graduations tonight, and
We do.
And I appreciate both of these judges being here today, because you're zipping back and forth across the circuit, because it does include Fannin, Gilmer, and Pickens. So you don't get to just serve one county, you serve all of the counties, and there's some mileage between those counties.
true.
So you said you've got 4 graduates tonight. Judge Worcester, speak to this graduation process. What have all of these individuals been through that gets them to this point where you believe today is the day of graduation?
Well, I think I have to preface it by saying it may be graduation, but it's not the end. It's the beginning.
It's the beginning.
As I say to a lot of my people, I said, very selfishly, I don't want to see you graduate, because I've seen you a couple of times every month. I know you by name, I know you by face, I know you by voice, and I've done this for a couple of years. So
Right.
selfishly, I don't want to lose you. But unselfishly, and that's the way it should be, it's an opportunity to close one door and open up another door for the future. And I think we all say, listen, if, you may have graduated, but this door is always open. Come back to court, see what's going on, because this is your court.
And what have they been through with you?
Well, they've been through 2 years of having to deal with me. But they've been through 2 years of drug screens, of treatment, of education classes, of compliance, monitoring.
Meetings.
Meetings galore.
Yeah.
They've been through a lot. And, it's no small thing to be able to graduate, because you've spent a lot of time and a lot of effort with the program.
And, people sometimes think that it's easy. Well, they're getting the easy way out. Well, they will tell you they are not getting the easy way out, because basically they're doing something almost every day in this program to make it. But when I say I have 4 veterans graduating, I have 17 graduates from the felony drug court, and Judge Worcester, you have
I've got
five?
7.
7 from the mental health court. I think we were talking earlier, I think this is the biggest graduation that we have had probably since the very beginning of all of the programs. And we used to include family treatment court before the COVID hit. And we'd have like 300 people who would come to the church in LJ. They would let us use their fellowship room, and we'd have a lot of people coming in. And so we would include the family treatment court. And it's because of trying to keep the numbers lower that we even do graduations, staggering graduations tonight. We'll start at 5:15 and keep going, bringing in the Veterans Court, bringing in the Mental Health Court, bringing in the Felony Drug Court, so that they can at least bring 1 or 2 family members with them to watch them in person. And then we have the virtual systems of Zoom and WebEx, so people can also get online and watch the graduations as well. So this is going to be a big graduation for us. There a lot of individuals, a lot of family members will be very happy tonight.
And what does tonight look like? What is the celebration like if we were there watching it happen?
Well, initially, all of the staff will be introduced because they are the ones who truly get the credit, should get the credit, not us. We have excellent staff in all of the programs. And then each graduate, we'll call up each graduate, talk a little bit about them, but more importantly, we want the graduate to talk about themselves and what they went through. And then we'll invite family members to come up and say anything they want to say about their son or daughter or sister or brother, whoever is there. We may have sponsors. We have a lot of people who we call sponsors who volunteer in the communities to let these individuals call them during this time period. We'll have our mentors there from the Veterans Court. A lot of people who chair the meetings that they must attend. So a lot of people that spend a lot of time with these individuals for at least 2 years. Sometimes it takes longer for some to graduate, but it's at least 2 years for everyone that is graduating tonight. So, well, it's been described, and I'll say this, my husband one time said, it's like a Baptist revival because we all cry and hug each other, and we're just so proud of them, and they're very proud of themselves.
And I'll ask this as a personal question to you, Judge Worcester. I've had a chance to see you in court through my work with CASA, and I feel like with you, you know every detail about every family that approached your bench, and you've been recognized nationally for your work in juvenile court. How do you learn all of these details? Because you just gave a lot of numbers of individuals who will graduate tonight. So how do you know all of these things? And you're both brilliant. You have great minds, I know that. But talk about the investment that you give of yourself to these families and people.
I think to work in an accountability court, you've got to be committed to it. If you're not committed to it, they're going to know, and I think that's half the game.
Okay.
If you're going to work in an accountability court, you better know your audience. You better know the people that you have in there. Fortunately, you know, we're in smaller communities, so, you know, even though I wasn't born here, I've been here long enough where I know lots of these families. Certainly Judge Weaver knows more than I know. And so you know them, and partly because of having been in juvenile court, there's a likelihood that you've dealt with mama or daddy when they were a kid. So you know a lot of these families, but I think it takes showing the participant that you care about them, that you want to see them succeed, that they're a human being and that they're a person of worth makes a big difference. Because if you don't believe in them, who's going to believe in them?
Right.
That's right.
And the other thing that Judge Worcester and I talked about with you earlier is that, you know, we're called at night a lot of times about different issues going on with the participants on the weekends and holidays and vacations. So when I get a call at 10 o'clock at night to say that Jane Doe is having this issue, I have got to remember how many times this has happened before, where she's living, what's going on, in order to make a decision as to what I need to do at that particular time. So it's almost required that we get to know our individuals very well, because we're going to be called upon, not just in court, but day and night, as to if certain issues are happening. Again, because these individuals are in our courts, we have a duty to protect the public. If there's something going on that I need to make sure this person needs to go to jail for a period of time, we've got to remember how we sanctioned before, so that we can make a good decision on what to do in that particular case that's happening right now. So we have to know who we're dealing with.
And so when we see those court calendars, life is a lot more than the dates on that calendar,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's right. Well, we need to take a break. I've already missed one break. I always do that. I get so involved in conversation that I forget what Caleb in the booth needs to do. So we're going to take a break and pay some bills, as they say. And we will be back here with Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. My special guests today are Chief Judge Brenda Weaver and Judge John Worcester, here today talking about accountability courts in our community. Stay with us.
Whether you're in the mood for chicken strips, a delicious burger, our classic banana split, or an upside-down thick blizzard treat, we've got you covered. Hot and fresh food every day, every time. And delicious DQ soft serve make the perfect pair at your favorite place. Not fast food, fan food fast. Your Blue Ridge, Ellijay, and Jasper Dairy Queens are your meet, eat, and treat headquarters.
Thank you for choosing DQ. How may I serve you?
This country was built on self-reliance. Our fathers and grandfathers knew when something was broken, they should know how to fix it. Here at Luttrell's Hardware, we believe in the old-fashioned way. We believe you shouldn't have to drive out of town, and you darn sure shouldn't have to do it twice. Most importantly, we believe our customers should be like family. So come see us here at Luttrell's on Highway 68 in Copper Hill. Let's roll up our sleeves and make this country great again.
ETC knows the internet is evolving, taking new twists and turns. As we add our input, make our choices, and follow the light that connects us all. It's quite a journey, one to experience with the fastest speeds available. Contact ETC, connect to the internet speed that suits your journey, and enjoy the ride.
Welcome back, everyone, to Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. We're having a great conversation today with two important people in our community that are responsible for making decisions about does someone go to jail, do they go to prison, or do they need an accountability court? They've established many of those in our community, and our special guest today, our Chief Judge, Brenda Weaver, and also Superior Court Judge John Worcester. Thank you both again so much for being here today. And we talked offline during the break about the importance of, we've talked about partnerships, how all the pieces of the court system need to come together to support an accountability court, and you talked about how the state and our leadership have to come together to support it, provide money. But businesses locally are an important piece of this accountability court program. Speak to that, Judge Worcester.
Well, we have a lot of businesses in the community that actually prefer to hire our people. You know, they're getting people who are in a program. They're getting people who are being drug screened. They're being supervised, and they will be at work. So it's a good benefit for an employer.
If I was being accountable to you two, I'd certainly cross my T's, dot my I's. What about you, Judge Weaver? What do you want to say to those businesses who may be watching that are part of this partnership?
First of all, thank you. Because a requirement of the program is, of course, as Judge Brewster's indicated, is that you must, unless you have a mental or physical disability, you are required to work in our program. You're required to get your GED if you don't have a high school diploma. We are so proud of the individuals who have received their GED or high school diploma, and we have several individuals who've gone on to graduate from college. So during this time period, we had businesses in the communities, employers who would hire these individuals, knowing they would be out in the morning, get to work late because of drug screens, knowing they would have to come to court twice a month, knowing that they may have a therapy class. But they would agree to do that, and I think Judge Wooster's correct, because they knew they could depend on them to be there. That's a requirement, and they would also depend on them to be drug-free. So it was a benefit to them, but they are taking a chance on these individuals, and without the businesses doing that, this program would not work, because they need the stability of a job, they need to support their families. They need to have the schedule that you and I have, that we know we've got to be at work every day. We've got to do these things. And it sets the proper example for their children, that their children learn. You got to be in school and on time, and then you got to work. And also, by requiring the individuals to get their GED and having those who go on to college, again, trying to set the example for others in the community and for their own children, that education is important. So all of these different parts of accountability court is to set the example for the individuals, their families, and their children, so they can be prosperous and in the community.
And if I had all of these individuals rallying around me, as it sounds there are many, that can help somebody get over that hump of feeling like there is no hope versus all of these people are working together to provide me hope, right?
Right. Well, for example, we have businesses, civic groups who donate monies every year to help provide Christmas to some of the children for the individuals who maybe, or even though they're working, can't buy the extra things that's needed during the holidays, extra food, extra gifts, and things of this nature. We get donations for, sometimes our individuals, a lot of them don't have insurance. They need dental work, or they need different things health-wise. So we try to partnership with Good Samaritan and the different home health agencies in the 3 counties, but sometimes there's just a little extra money needed for something that maybe their child may need something, or they may have a medical condition that they need immediate assistance with, until they may need to help initially for us to help them with their prescription drugs if they have mental health issues that they're having. So we have civic groups and other churches that volunteer to help us with those types of financial needs. So we feel very blessed in this circuit that we have the support of so many people in the community that believe in the program. And I think it's because they've had issues with individuals in their own families that suffer from substance abuse issues or mental health issues. You know, a lot of times grand juries want to hear about the accountability courts, and I ask them, how many of you have a friend or a family member who are suffering from some type of mental health issue or substance abuse issues? And you know,
everybody,
hand goes up.
Right.
Because it's so, sadly, it's so prevalent in this community. And so I think because of that understanding, that they want to support what we're doing.
Now, Judge Worcester, you mentioned earlier that sometimes graduations for some take longer than others. Do you find that you will allow someone to be part of one of these courts and then it just doesn't work for them. Can we talk about our success rate or rates of those that it presents a challenge to them and maybe something else is better?
Well, to be sure, I mean, accountability courts, we certainly believe wholeheartedly in accountability courts, but they're not for everybody.
Okay.
You know, you wish you could sit there and say, every single person would benefit from this and life would be perfect. But there's some people that just can't do it. And it's not necessarily that they don't want to do it. There's some people who legitimately can't do it. You've got to be at, I mean, example, you got to be at a treatment class in the afternoon and you don't have any transportation at all. You don't even have a bicycle and you can't drive the bicycle 25 miles at any rate.
Because you can't provide everything to everyone.
No. I mean,
you can provide this framework for there to become whole again, so to speak, but right, there are other challenges. And what did you say, Jeff?
Well, the transportation is such an issue, and many times some individuals do not have family members that can provide the transportation for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the graduation way, and sometimes Judge Worcester and others of us that's in the accountability court, sometimes I feel like, particularly in the mental health court, they should be able to, I mean, sometimes we take that they graduate and then a year or two they come back to us because they get off their medication or whatever. And I talked to a judge who's been in it longer than we have actually in Gainesville. And I said, sometimes I think that maybe in our mental health court, these individuals just need to stay with us for a longer period of time, as long as they're doing well and they're taking their medication, because sometimes they need more assistance that even we can give them within 2 years.
And what are some statistics? Do you have some to provide about how many people have been through the accountability courts or mental health court? Or
in our circuit, we got this information today because we present it to the public every time we have a graduation. So I wanted to pull this out, and I thought, we have. In drug court, we've had 363 graduates. In family drug court, 146. Veterans court, 37. Help court, 113. We have had a total of like 38 that started college while in these programs. We have had 165 that's got their GED or their high school diploma while in the programs. Total, right now we have like 102 active participants in drug court, 22 in family drug court, veterans court 20, and help court 50. Our numbers are a little bit down because of the pandemic, the COVID, because initially in 2020 we were not allowed to have a lot of courts, so the numbers will go back up.
But one is enough to make it successful,
but
right?
When looking at the recidivist, as I said before, we've had University of Georgia has come out to do an independent survey and evaluation of all the programs in Georgia. The recidivist rate for those that graduate from accountability courts is much, much lower than those who are released from the state prison system. And so they take that number and average it by the number of days that these people have not been in prison, and that's how they come up with the fact that one graduate in one of our programs saves the state of Georgia like what, $27,000 a year or something to that nature. So the numbers certainly, and we present those numbers each year to the governor's office and to the General Assembly so they can look at making sure that the state of Georgia and its citizens is getting its money back for the amount of money that's put into accountability courts. But the recidivist rate is much lower. And even if someone doesn't graduate, let's say that they've been in the program a year and they, for whatever reason, they don't graduate and we have to leave them back in the jail or put them back in the state prison system, that even when they get out of prison, their rate of recidivism is lower because they've had so many months or whatever in an accountability court. So no matter if you graduate or if you don't graduate, the risk of you committing other crimes is much lower than someone who just goes straight to the to the state prison system.
And I know as I've sat here and conducted many of these interviews with our partners that are part of this program and doctors and others who've sat here, the information to me is always overwhelming because the mental health industry is not something I'm part of, the judicial industry is not something I'm part of. And for the HELP court, or that mental health court, HELP standing for health, empowerment, life, and productivity, how do you two stay abreast of what you need to know in the mental health field or the veterans field, or how do you know all the things that you need to know, or are you constantly learning on the job as needs arise?
Yes.
Constantly
Both.
learning?
Yes.
And, we're required to go to conferences. We go to state and national conferences. I participated in a webinar during lunch today. We have a meeting of the Georgia Behavioral Health Commission that was established by Governor Kemp again on Friday, that we're going to be talking about the issues that we will be advocating for at the General Assembly this year. I represent Speaker Ralston on that commission. He has certainly been going around the state of Georgia trying to get what are the primary priorities for mental health in Georgia that he needs to advocate for next year. It's a constant learning, both in and out of the courtroom, but we try to attend, things that I did in 2002 that I thought was perfect for the felony drug court. We don't do anymore because we have learned since 2002, not only in the state of Georgia, but nationwide, that doesn't work. Try this. You were talking about, we're very lucky in this circuit. Not only is our mental health court a model court, our felony drug court and our veterans court are both have been nominated, and so those courts are also model courts, and so we do help other judges across the state when they're starting out new courts or if they're having issues. I'm convinced that once we have model courts for family treatment courts, Judge Wheeler does an excellent job, and I'm certain that her court would also be named a model family treatment court. So that is our goal. We want to continue to learn. If there's different ways of doing things better, we need to do things better. As we've said before, doing the same thing over and over, if it's not working, we need to change. And luckily, I think all of us in this circuit, Judge Priest doesn't operate a accountability court yet, but she certainly is very supportive. We're very lucky. Our district attorney is very supportive of our accountability courts. All of the county commissioners, our sheriffs, all of them see the benefit of our courts and certainly assist us in any way that we ask them to do so. So we are extremely blessed in this circuit for the support we get, not only from people in the court system, but school systems, local governments. We all work together, which is the way it should be.
And what about you, Judge Worcester, as far as the way that you stay up to date on all of the issues that could come before you in the court?
Well, I agree with Judge Weaver. I mean, we go to numerous training opportunities, both within the state and outside the state. And a lot of it is listen and watch. You've got therapists that you're working with. You've got educators that you're working with. Listen, watch, see what's happening.
And as we only have about 6 minutes left of this program, it just goes by so quickly. How have the courts been impacted by the pandemic? I know that you've experienced lots of change. Talk about adaptation and change. Judge Weaver, what about it?
In March of 2020, all of a sudden we received notice from the Supreme Court of Georgia of things that we could do and could not do. Well, in this circuit, we had never really used virtual hearings or WebEx or Zoom. We had to learn a lot of new terms. And also that we knew for the accountability courts, in order to meet all the state guidelines, our individuals had to be coming to court. They had to be in treatment. They must go to meetings. They had to be drug screened. So we had to come up with ways of being able to review them in court virtually. We had to retrain our staff on how to do drug screens so they would be safe and the participants would be safe. We had to find meetings they could go to online. We had to have therapists who were willing to do online therapy. So it was a big learning curve. our county commissioners were able to get us WebEx systems where we could review, you know, because we have people in jail that we've got to bring over for hearings, and so
Lots of mandated
things that we
yes.
must go through.
Yes.
So it was a huge. We could not have any jury trials until this year, 2021. So a lot of times trying to move criminal cases, frankly, unless those individuals that cannot be in accountability courts because of the nature of their crimes that we've talked about before, they were sitting in jail waiting for jury trials, and so we were not really getting the pleas and working those cases. So our jails started building up with too many inmates in jail. The prisons were not picking up those inmates. So it was just a domino effect of everything coming together and us trying to find new ways to do things. Luckily, we were able to do that. So, and then we were able to start the jury trials back. But again, we have to bring in jurors staggered. Takes longer to strike a jury, takes longer to try a jury trial, because certainly we're mandated, but we also want to make sure that when you require a person to come into court, then we have a duty to make sure they're safe. Yep. Particularly our jurors and that are mandated under the statute. You get a jury notice, you've got to come to court. Well, then if you must come to court, then I must keep you safe as possible. So for those of us that were older, learning a lot of this new technical equipment.
I'd never used Zoom before. I don't really think, and I hate to say that, but I don't really think I had as a means to conduct business. But that was the model.
So many times, because sometimes up in the mountains the internet doesn't work as well.
That's true.
And we've had to call ETC and say, "Come help us, come get us back online."
So they're a partner too.
And they are a partner too, and they would come because they knew we had to have that equipment going again. So yes, they've been a great partner. We appreciate them coming to court to say, "Get us back online. What's going on?" So it's been a big change, but we got through it. But you deal with what is being played. And for example, this week up in Fannin, we had to make some changes because of some issues that came up with some individuals working in the courthouse who tested positive. So, but we made those changes and went on with court business.
That's right. Just shift it to a different county if you have
right.
to.
And that's what we did. We were here in Fannin County hearings in Pickens County by way of WebEx and Zoom.
And flexibility.
Right.
That's the key.
What you got to do.
So we have only about 2.5 minutes left. Any final thoughts? Let's get each of your final thoughts on accountability courts, the state of mental health, because mental health is a piece of each of those courts, it seems, like
Yes.
veterans dealing with mental health issues. It's overarching. So Judge Worcester, your final thoughts on accountability courts in our community.
Well, let me focus it on mental health a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I found to be kind of a rude awakening was my realization that our largest psychiatric facilities become our jails and prisons. And realizing that staff doesn't know how to deal with these people. Mm-hmm. The mentally ill doesn't know how to deal with staff, other inmates. You create a very volatile type of situation, and there had to be something better than that. And that's really kind of one of the things that drives me.
Yes.
We've talked about it often, and I think I talked about it in the article, and you and I have talked about it. It is just morally and ethically wrong to house an individual who has severe mental health issues in a jail. They are sick. They need our help. And when we know as judges that we have no other place to put them for their own protection, and times family members get tired, and you know, it's easy to criticize family members if you've never gone through that. And sometimes they'll come into our courtroom and say, "Judge, I can't do, there's just not anything else I can do. Can you help me? And most of the time, and truly before the mental health courts, there was not a lot we could do, but even now, they may be mentally incompetent, which means they can't stand trial. The state hospitals are full. We have individuals in our local jails who are waiting on a bed to a state hospital so they can be treated. And it could be 2 to 3 months, and they are sitting in our jail. And please remember, during this time period, we can't put them on trial. They can't be found not guilty because while they're still mentally incompetent, they can't be held responsible for any of their crimes. And we can't get them in a state hospital. So that is one of the areas that Speaker Ralston is very much aware of. That's going to be one of the areas that we're advocating for, is to get more beds so these individuals can be treated. And you know, you talk to our local sheriffs and they will agree with you that one of the most expensive inmates to have in jail is a person with mental health issues, because as John talked about, they don't know sometimes really how they get into a jail situation and they don't know how to react because they have mental health issues, which
Right.
means that they have to be put in more isolated cells. They must have more medication. They must be watched more closely. And no one feels comfortable having those individuals in jail because we know they have mental health issues. They need to be in a state hospital. They need to be getting the treatment that they need to become competent. And sadly, some will never become competent. They just will not because of the severe issues that they face. So, I mean, people need to understand that and advocate for that and tell their state representatives and senators, support this emphasis on getting more money into the mental health field. Students in high schools, elementary schools, middle schools, they're having issues. They need more mental health counselors, and sadly, we have a shortage in this, not only just in this circuit, but in this state. So these students, these children are not getting the help they need. And my heart goes out to the teachers and principals and school administrators. What are they to do? So we just all need to understand and get behind this initiative that Speaker Ralston is trying to promote throughout the state. These individuals deserve our help and our attention, and we must be able to provide that.
Well, thank you so much for being part of that initiative and representing him, and I know that he will do whatever that he can do to make sure that mental health and mental health initiatives receive more state funding. So hopefully everybody will get on board and support that initiative, and we thank you for being the boots on the ground and helping him to do that for us across our state. And I thank you both for being here today on behalf of Fannin County Family Connection and this entire mental health initiative to shed some light on mental health courts, because I wanted to do some general knowledge because there's just so much to understand. But there's much more going on than that calendar that we talked about, that you're working round the clock to assess individual needs and create these courts when the need arises to be able to help individuals in our community that need special help. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we thank you for watching this edition of Your Mental Health Matters. It's okay to not be okay. Thank you for watching. We will have our final program coming up next month, that third Thursday in December, and we will have a conversation about ADHD and autism and children's issues. Trip Ritchie with the North Georgia Autism Foundation. That's right, the North Georgia Autism Foundation will be here, as well as others, to discuss that topic. But thank you for being here today to talk more about mental health with Chief Judge Brenda Weaver, Judge John Worcester. We are honored that they would give us that time because we know that their time is so precious, and today especially is a very busy day for them. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on this program. Be well.